Hello everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album by 3 Days Grace, Alienation. So this is the first album from the band which has Adam Gonche back again as a full-time member. So Adam left after the Transit of Venus record, which left us 3 albums with a new lead singer, Matt Walst, who, while he has got a good vocal range, and I do think he's a good vocalist, has actually not been a very strong writer and contributed to some of the weakest points in the band's discography. Human was a decent attempt at making this sort of newer 3 Days Grace sound with a new lead singer, and Outsider, while it kind of had the mark with some songs, it went into a very poppy, bland way, which a lot of songs just felt uninspired or just felt very generic in sound. And Explosions is by far the weakest thing the band's put out, with some of the worst writing. And even though this album was supposed to be very personal to Matt Walst, I can't take it seriously whatsoever, with just how cheesy, how obnoxious, and how boring the whole record was. But now we got Alienation. This definitely seems to be much more of a return to form, at least for 3 Days Grace. While they have had some decent songs with Matt Walst, I mean, Explosions wasn't all that bad. That was a bit of hyperbole there, but other than So-Called Life and Lifetime, I really didn't like anything else on the record. And with Outsider, it's only a few songs like The Abyss where I think his writing actually is pretty concrete and there is some good ideas. He just doesn't really know how to construct it the same way that Adam did. But obviously when you have a new lead singer, stuff like this would happen. But we've got 12 tracks. I thought I'd go through them and see if Adam's return pushes the band back into a good direction, at least. So we had Dominate, which was one of the singles. I really didn't care much for this one. It's just obnoxious with the kind of delivery, and it just feels like a song that would fit from the Matt Walst era. It feels like a song that Adam didn't really have much writing going into, at least, so it could have been the only song that kind of didn't have Adam on it whatsoever. I mean, I think he is contributed for it, but it just feels like Matt Walst did the entire song, and it shows. Dominate is not a strong song in my opinion. Apologies is probably the worst song on the record. This was also a single, and it was pretty rough. I think the vocal deliveries, the lyrics on this one just don't really work very well. The chorus is just not very strong either, and the instrumentation just isn't anything to write home about. It's not a strong start for the record, but thankfully it does pick up with Mayday. I quite like this one, to be honest. It was the lead single, and it highlights the strength between the two. I feel like it's interesting to have Adam and Matt both doing vocals for this record, but Mayday's an example how it works. Adam brings kind of the old groove back, a little bit of the Saint Asonia sound from his side project while he left the band, and Matt just kind of does the modern sound of 3 Days Grace at this point. But Mayday's quite a lot of fun. It's just a silly upbeat song with a lot of fun ideas, and it definitely does kind of bring a classic sound of 3 Days Grace with a modern twinge, which I think is quite nice, and I would prefer to kind of have that for the remainder of the record. Kill Me Fast is probably the best of the 4 singles. There's actually just so much enjoyment with this one. Instrumentation, this really works. Both of the members play off each other, but this definitely feels like a classic 3 Days Grace song, or at least it feels like a Saint Asonia track. It just manages to do what the singles struggle to do in some way, and it's just really go into the emotional dark aspect of tracks like, or albums like 1X and Self-Titled. It's really awesome, this one, and definitely one of the best tracks on the record. A really good single as well. In Waves, the first new song. We're all past the singles now. That it's front loaded with the singles on this record. Yeah, this one's good. In Waves isn't anything incredible, but it's a nice kind of step more into the right direction, and I feel like the writing with this sort of sound just works pretty well in their favour. I think there's some great moments. I think the instrumentation, again, like Kill Me Fast and Mayday, is also quite good. Yeah, it's just a fun song. Alienation has got some interesting instrumentation. I don't think this one is that great, but I do like some of the ideas going into it. The little creepy chime thing they put into the song, yeah, it kind of makes sense with the track, but I think Alienation just kind of was a fine track. It's another example of a band naming the album after a song on the record, but the song on the record isn't really that strong to call it that, which a lot of bands have done this before, and I don't think Alienation, while it's a cool title for an album, it isn't really a good song, in my opinion. It's up there with Dominate and Apologies as some of the weakest, but it's fine. It's basically passable. I'd say the whole record is. So there's your spoiler there. Never Ordinary is pretty good. This one I quite like. It goes into a bit more of this very melodic style to it, and I like it. It's a bit softer, but I think it's focusing more on the fact that we've got two pretty good vocalists here, and they play off each other really well. Yeah, again, it's a really nice song. Deathwish is a little heavier. I do like this one. It kind of reminiscence a bit more of the modern, like, Human sound to me, at least, but in a better way, and Adam's contribution is what makes it not feel like just a Human song, but rather it has a lot more creativity into it. I like this one. Don't Want to Go Home Tonight, probably one of the weaker non-album singles, like with Alienation. I don't think it's a bad song at all, though. I think it's stronger than the weakest stuff on the record, but it doesn't really do much either. It's definitely one of the more serious songs, but yeah, I think it's just fine. I don't really have much to say on that. In Cold Blood, this one's pretty good. I do like the energy on this one as well. It's got some pretty nice like kind of hard-hitting moments for this, and yeah, for a kind of a more mainstream hard rock band, they're definitely managing to kind of take what worked with their earlier stuff, put it into the new aspect, and also take what works with the newer stuff and put it together. So I'm appreciating that, and Cold Blood's a good example of how they can make both of these worlds collide. The Power, this one just definitely feels like a perfect blend of new and old. It feels like something that could be on Transit of Venus with something that could be on Outsider. I'm not even joking. It just kind of takes the parallels of kind of late Adam Gonche and middle of the career Matt Walst, I'd say. And then Another Relapse is a nice song. It extends the guitar just to kind of give it a little bit more prominence, but I don't think the song really does anything like that. The guitar just feels like it's forcing itself to have this cool riff and repeat just to kind of exaggerate it. I don't think it necessarily needed it, but it's fine. Yeah, that's pretty much the 3 Days Grace tracks. I feel like it's a definitely accessible record for sure, and unlike something like 1X, it's definitely a bit more onto the kind of more mainstream, a little bit more on the poppy side of the aspect, especially with Saint Asonia. I feel like that band rips into some heavier ideas, or at least stronger writing and presence. Saint Asonia, in my opinion, has been stronger than 3 Days Grace for a while, and I kind of have to say I still think they are. Even the EPs they dropped, Introvert and Extrovert, has got some pretty nice sounding stuff and kind of hooks me in more. But for Alienation, it's a crowning achievement that I never would see the light of day, that Matt Walsh would contribute and help write a pretty good record, and B, Adam would actually come back. There's the two things I wasn't really expecting. No shade to Matt Walsh, but his writing just generally felt like a big downgrade to some of the best stuff of 3 Days Grace. So it's nice that they are pulling themselves back and releasing one of the best albums in a very long time for the band. I'd even say that it surpasses potentially Transit of Venus, which was definitely the weakest of the 4 albums Adam worked on, and I'd probably argue it could be a top 3 album from the band. It definitely has the potential, just needs to give it a bit more time to settle to see if it truly feel that way. It does have some weaker songs, which is kind of its drawback, but I feel like even in the Adam Gonche era there was some weaker stuff on kind of the last few albums he had with the band anyway. I feel like the most consistent releases was the first 2, and since then it's been kind of hard to ignite the torch to get the insanely fun ideas again. But Alienation is a good attempt at bringing it back, and I'm going to appreciate this album existing. I know 3 Days Grace is not the most well-liked band, because when it's a really popular hard rock band, stuff like that, and Finger 11 often gets slumped into just kind of drifting away from their classic sound to favour a more radio-friendly sound. But I do appreciate it still. I feel like there's definitely a lot of genius back, and I think this album is a good return to form. Nothing insane, nothing mind-boggling, but as a casual listen, I feel like if you want to listen to something that just feels like kind of a standard rock album or hard rock album, I kind of recommend this one, although some of the songs do feel like they shouldn't be here, and some of the songs just don't have the writing chops that some of the best stuff does. But yeah, that's kind of to be expected when you have the band doing 50-50 on writing and vocals. So there you go. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. So I hope you'll enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next video.